A wild day in the AFC South. A lot of rumors, quarterback arrivals. We've been talking about one specifically, but there could be one that overshadows that in a big, big way. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610, the home of the Houston Texans. The biggest news from the owners' meetings today, and we heard D'Amico Ryan speak. I'll get into that as the week goes on, and what we made of what D'Amico had to say. I had a lot of interesting things to say about roles. Looks like Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud will visit with the Texans. So all this talk, all this goofiness about not being at pro days, all that junk. Really not a big deal because the Texans are going to get some one-on-one time with both of the guys, no matter how you feel about it, whether you're a Bryce guy, whether you're a CJ guy. We're going to get close to that. Speaking of close, Gridiron Takeover brings this up, and get the comments in. This is an interactive show. We're closer to the draft. We're exactly 1 month away from the draft, to be exact. Draft party is going to be wild. I'll be out there. A lot of my coworkers will be out there. Texans did a hell of a job putting that together. Go to the website if you want to get out there. I'm going to be out there through pick 12, and then I'm going to come on here and do a little live stream. You got a live stream on the draft. Let's be honest. We started this 8 months ago. By the way, we just passed 500,000 views last week. Actually 6 months ago, 6 months, we have 500,000 views. So appreciate everyone for coming through, liking, subscribing, all that type of crap. Get the comments in, and we'll figure this out. Let's start, though, with the story of the day and really the big headline, Lamar Jackson. Let's pretend that Lamar Jackson ends up in Indianapolis with the Colts. And I think this is a possibility because when it comes to the risk or the investment in Lamar Jackson, you can make a case that Indianapolis, unlike a bunch of the other situations, that the Indianapolis Colts actually would be making the safest decision in going all in on Lamar Jackson. And let me explain this. The Indianapolis Colts for half a decade, you remember when you were watching the Texans take on the Dallas Cowboys in the preseason, Lamar Jackson got hurt, or not Lamar Jackson, Lamar Miller got hurt. It was doom and gloom. And then all of a sudden, Andrew Luck abruptly announces his retirement. Colts fans boo him. And since then, the Indianapolis Colts, about a year or so removed from beating the Texans' ass at home in a playoff game, the Indianapolis Colts, ever since then, they've been shuffling to find a quarterback. And it cost Frank Reich his job. It led to Chris Ballard having some awkward conversations with Jim Irsay, per people who cover the team, including Chris Ballard. And ever since then, they've just been kind of chasing their tail trying to find a quarterback. If the Indianapolis Colts were sitting at number 2, and I can see some people in the comments saying maybe the Texans should go after Lamar Jackson. It doesn't make sense for the Texans. The Texans aren't desperate. The Texans haven't been through what the Colts have been through the last half decade. The Colts don't have the draft equity that the Texans have. So it really just wouldn't. It's not the same situation. But the Colts have a GM who needs to find a quarterback. They have a coach who probably doesn't want to put his ass on the line for Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. I know there's some Anthony Richardson and Will Levis people, but I would be hard-pressed to believe, and you tell me, even if you are an Anthony Richardson guy and you want to swing for the fences, or you're a Will Levis guy, if you're Chris Ballard and you've been a part of things for the last 5 years in Indianapolis, do you find yourself saying, I would risk my job as one of 32 GMs in the NFL? I would risk my job for Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. I find it hard to believe. Maybe I'm a little biased. I'm not a fan of either one of those guys, especially not at number 4, but I wouldn't do that. So if you're the Indianapolis Colts, and we assume that they're going to take a quarterback with their number 4 overall pick, you throw in another one and you invest in Lamar Jackson, you at the very least got one of the top, 12 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. You invest in that. You give Shane Steichen, who did wonders with Jalen Hurts, you give him Lamar Jackson, and it's time to cook, really. Like, if Indianapolis gets Lamar Jackson, are they the favorites in the AFC South? I know we're high on Jacksonville. The over-under win total for Jacksonville right now is 10.5, which I think is asinine. If you've listened to the show, I've been on the Jacksonville train for a couple of years. I had them in the playoffs last year. Before that, I had them in the playoffs. I was dead wrong with Urban Meyer. Not even taking credit for last year, but I feel like there's kind of been a thing where Jacksonville has kind of gotten to where they're a little bit overvalued. We'll get into that in a second, but let's just look at Indianapolis and let's pretend they get Lamar Jackson. And let's pretend whatever the money aside, they make the money work and they have the roster that they have right now and they have Lamar Jackson. If you look at the Colts, their O-line, and SVK brings this up, the Colts offensive line is not what it once was. It's not even close to what it once was. But Lamar Jackson can make an offensive line better. And let's pretend that Lamar Jackson is on the Colts. Do they have the best quarterback in the AFC South? Put it in the comments. If Indianapolis, if you have, and we're just talking about right now, Trevor Lawrence, he's at the point where he could take his game to a high level, and we could be talking about Trevor Lawrence and like MVP discussions by the end of the year in 8-9 months. Could happen. Could. Not saying it will, but I'm saying it could. But as of right now, Lamar Jackson, healthy, ready to go. Trevor Lawrence, who is the best quarterback in the AFC South? I say it's Lamar. Right now. Again, we'll get into Jacksonville in a second. But right now, Lamar Jackson would be the best quarterback in the AFC South, in my opinion. There's some people who disagree. There's some people who agree. K-Brow 74, Lawrence is about to be better, I'd bet. I would not bet against it. But as of right now, Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the AFC South, in my opinion. Now let's look at the running back position, because the AFC South actually has, for how questionable the quarterback play has been lately, the AFC South, the running back position is pretty stacked. Pretty stacked. To say the least. And if your comments aren't topical, I'll get to them later. If they are topical, I'll try to get to them right here. But the running back position is stacked. Could you make a case that Indianapolis would have the best running back in the AFC South? Because I believe they have the best quarterback. I'm not going to sleep on Derrick Henry. He's got Adrian Peterson vibes where it just seems like this guy's never going to break down. We assume, you guys play fantasy football, you assume Derrick Henry's going to break down. All of a sudden, you're looking back 5 weeks into your fantasy season, although he did get banged up last year, and you're saying, good God, I should have drafted him instead of fill in the blank. Can you make a case, though, that Jonathan Taylor healthy, and they shut him down last year, that Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in the AFC South right now? You can make a case, right? Strong case. Strong case. And I think Jonathan Taylor's still going top 5 in fantasy leagues this year. They kind of shut him down as a caution last year. So you have arguably the best quarterback. You have arguably the best running back. Now let's look at receivers. Receivers in the AFC South are rough. We can get a little later on. We can get into the state of the Texans wide receiver position, but it's rough. Not a lot of playmaking. There's some guys that can be winning pieces. There's some guys that can fit into this system. There's some guys who can block. There's some guys who've done some stuff in the league, but the wide receiver position with the Texans is tough. The Jags have Christian Kirk, who had the season of his career last year. Like Trevor Lawrence, very possible that the best is ahead for Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk could be one of those guys that emerges as top 10, top 15 receiver in the NFL. Could very well happen. You would say right now he's arguably the best receiver in the AFC South. Tennessee's receiver position is a disaster. They traded the undisputed best wide receiver in the division to the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown was in a Super Bowl. Tennessee Titans still have no receivers. That's a problem for them. That's a very, very weak position for the Tennessee Titans. And then the Colts have Michael Pittman Jr., who's shown some things. Kind of hard for him to produce last year, given the quarterback situation. A lot of people thought that there would be a significant breakout for him. A little bit nicked up. And let's be honest, Sam Ehlinger and who the hell else did they play at quarterback? Sam Ehlinger, Matt Ryan. I mean, it was just, it was bad. But Michael Pittman, you can put in the discussion. And then you have Calvin Ridley coming in, who we haven't seen in nearly 2 years. Calvin Ridley had a really good year a few years ago. Let's just put him to the side because we don't know what to expect, although it could be some big things. But you can make a case, even if you want to bring Ridley in the conversation, you can make a case that with Ridley and what he's done and the potential rust factor, with Christian Kirk and the fact that we have a small sample size of him playing really, really, really well, and Michael Pittman, that the Colts could have maybe the best wide receiver in the league, right? Make a case. How would Indianapolis not be the favorite in the division? I mean, can you imagine a zone read with Jonathan Taylor and Lamar Jackson? I know they're going to have to figure some stuff out with the offensive line. I know the offensive line's been the strength of theirs for a while. But how could you not say that the Indianapolis Colts are at the very least, the favorite in the AFC South? Matthew says, I feel like Taylor and Pittman kind of fell off. Might have been just an off year, but not sure if they are at the top of their respective division in the AFC South. Technically can make a case, though. How much does quarterback play have to do with that, though? How much does QB play have to do with that? I think it's got to do a lot. So if Indianapolis isn't in a rebuild, that's the awkward thing about Indianapolis. Like the Texans are in a rebuild. So the Texans aren't sitting there swinging for the fences. Indianapolis has somewhat of an aging core. Time is money with running backs, with Jonathan Taylor. He could fall off a cliff the next couple of years. Michael Pittman Jr., you're about to have to decide how much you want to pay him. How good is Michael Pittman Jr.? Quentin Nelson's not getting any younger. Darius Leonard seems like he's been banged up a lot. We were talking about Darius Leonard being one of the best running back or linebackers in the league. He's kind of banged up a little bit. They kind of need to be aggressive. And if they did, like in the short term, again, it's short term, the Indianapolis Colts with Lamar Jackson, UFC South favorites. Right now, the Jags. Let's get to the Jags. Again, Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. We're looking at the AFC South through localized lenses. There's a lot of Lamar health. Obviously, health is important. He's got to stay healthy, but you give them Lamar. Who knows? Chris brings up the Jags and says the Jags are going to jag. We used to know what that meant. I'm looking at the Las Vegas betting odds, though. And the Jags have made a fool out of me the last couple of years, to the point where I'm not even taking credit for picking them to be in the playoffs last year, because I think there's a gray area that needs to be looked at. We'll get into that in a sec. But the Jags right now in Las Vegas, if you walked to Las Vegas and you looked up at the NFL props, and if you've been to Las Vegas and you love Las Vegas like I do, you love looking up at those props, looking up at those betting lines, looking for the opportunity to make that bread. And I know that a lot of people like to bet on the apps. To me, there's nothing more beautiful, nothing more lovely than smacking that cash down on the counter, getting that ticket, and then walking up and cashing that ticket. You'll never replace that. I don't give a damn how much technology you have. You will never replace that feeling. Right now, if you decided you wanted to bet on the Jags over under wins this season and you wanted to take the over, you would be saying the Jags are going to win 11 games or more. 11 games or more for the Jags. 3 teams in the AFC last year won 11 games or more. Those teams are the Buffalo Bills, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Kansas City Chiefs. So 2 teams that have been to the Super Bowl the last 2 seasons. Another team that's been one of the favorites to get to the Super Bowl the last 2 seasons was a couple of plays away from getting to the Super Bowl last year. Those are the 3 teams that won 11 games or more. Maybe the Jags are going to build on what happened last year, and it could very well happen. Trevor Lawrence had a hell of a second half against the Chargers, although it was a historically bad first half. Some people say that had as much to do with the Chargers abandoning the run and not having any wide receivers and Brandon Staley not being able to handle himself in big games. But nonetheless, the Jags won a playoff game last year. And then they went to Kansas City. They faced Patrick Mahomes on one leg, and they pushed Kansas City to the limit. But if you really take a step back and you look at what Jacksonville did last year, and again, I picked them to be in the playoffs. I did it the year before too. So I'm putting myself out there. Do the Jags win the playoffs if Ryan Tannehill doesn't get hurt last year? Ryan Tannehill missed 5 games for the Titans. The Titans were in cruise control. They completely plummeted at the end of the season. The Titans completely plummeted at the end of the season without Ryan Tannehill. The Jags aren't even in the playoffs, and they don't win the division without that. Now, maybe it doesn't matter, and the experience itself is something that the Jags can build on. But the Tennessee Titans, at one point in the season, were 7-3. They were in cruise control. They lost their final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. They lost their final 7 games. Ryan Tannehill was banged up. Eventually, they had to play with Malik Willis before. Somehow they won a game with Malik Willis over the Texans in which he didn't throw a pass in the second half. But the Titans lost their final 7 games. One of those games, Malik Willis threw for 99 yards. The other 2, they had Josh Dobbs as their high passer, 232 and 179. They had 2 games where Malik Willis threw for 55 yards and 80 yards. If the Tennessee Titans don't lose Ryan Tannehill, we're not even talking about the Jags winning the AFC South. So with all that said, are we really sure that the Jags are an 11-win team? That they're on the same level with the first place schedule now, by the way, that the Jags are on the same level as Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Buffalo? I like Doug Peterson. I like Trevor Lawrence. You can make a case and you can say that the answer to this question is yes. These questions that I'm asking, the answer is yes. You feel the best is yet to come for the Jags. Over 10.5? Really? I don't even know what the Texans are going to be. Texans were a 3-win team last year. They split with the Jags. Titans had Ryan Tannehill out. Colts had a disastrous quarterback play. 10.5 for the Jags? Okay. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, I'm taking the under on that one. But again, Jags have made a fool out of me before. I just don't know how we're going to sit there and say they're an 11-win team when 6 teams in the entire league won 11 last year, and there were 3 teams that in the AFC that won 11. That's pretty wild to me. I would take the under uh, on that. I would definitely take the under on the Jags. I do not think the Jags are an 11-win team, which brings us to the local perspective. The old Oilers, the Tennessee Titans, the current Titans, the Tennessee Titans. What exactly are they doing? What the hell are the Oilers, the old Oilers trying to do? The Titans. What what is the plan there? Are they just trying? Because there's not. I don't think they've had to make some tough decisions. They've had to get rid of some players. They've had to cut some of their core pieces. Maybe they're going to run it back. Are they just treading water, trying to survive? Are they just trying to be a scrappy bunch? Is that what we're getting with the Oilers? The Oilers right now have no direction. The Colts are deciding between 2 young quarterbacks and Lamar Jackson. The Jags have their young quarterback, and regardless of what I just said, they're feeling good about themselves. The Texans, they've been the most dog-butted organization in the NFL and in sports the last couple of years. They just hired their coach that they believe in. They have a lot of draft equity. They probably feel they're going to get their quarterback at 2. They're feeling themselves. Where are the Titans? What are they? You got a good coach. Mike Vrabel has overachieved most of his time at Tennessee. You've got a quarterback that has one of the largest cap hits. You probably don't want to commit to him too much past this year. You've got a running back who's an absolute freak show when he's in there. Although eventually that's got to wear down, right? I think maybe in Derrick Henry. You got one of the best players in the division in Jeffrey Simmons, who eventually you're going to have to pay. There's rumors that Kevin Byard wants out. You've already cut Taylor Lewan. What are the Titans? Just a scrappy team? I could see that. I mean, I could see Mike Vrabel running it back and having this team competitive and around 9 wins. And as long as, the quarterback doesn't get hurt, they're going to be competitive. I don't see them tanking, and I don't think Mike Vrabel's a bad enough coach to hit rock bottom. I think he set the bar pretty high. I don't know how they were the 1 seed a couple of years ago. But what the hell are the Tennessee Titans right now? They're kind of the meh team of the AFC South. But in the short term, they're a competitive football team. But if you're buying stock in the Titans, what are you getting? What are you getting? What are they going to do? What are the Titans going to do? Do we see them make a trade? Do they wait till the deadline and maybe trade Derrick Henry? What do they do at 10? What if a quarterback falls to them? Do the Tennessee Titans take Will Levis or Anthony Richardson? What do they do? I don't even want to call it a wild card. It's just kind of there. Titans are just kind of there. Kind of blah. Which brings us to the Texans. The Texans over under in Las Vegas right now is 5.5. 5.5 wins for the Texans. They had 3 last year. They're likely going to have a rookie quarterback. They've improved a lot of their roster. They got a lot last place schedule. If you had to bet on the Texans over under 5.5, I would think you would take the over. Now, if it were 6, I'd have to think about it. But 5.5, 1-3 last year, last place schedule, some uncertainty with some of the teams. You got 5 first-time coaches. You think the coach knows what he's doing. You like the new offensive scheme. I think 6 wins is a safe bet. I would bet on that. I would hammer the over, and I would handle the Jags under. And the Jags under doesn't mean they don't win the division. There's just a big difference between an 11-win team and like a team that wins the division with 10 or 9, especially given what the breaks that the Jags got last year. But with the Texans, I could definitely see the over for sure. Now, it does get interesting if you have to face Lamar twice instead of Matt Ryan or Anthony Richardson / Will Levis. That's just the overall outlook of the state of the AFC South, the impact that Lamar Jackson would have. And there's some interesting comments. I think most people saying 7. There's a lot of optimism. I don't think people are drinking the Kool-Aid too much. But 5.5, I don't want to say it's like disrespect or anything. I'm not like going to pound the table and say, "Oh my God, that's disrespectful." But the one that sticks out the most, 10.5 for the Jags. Come on, be serious. Lucked into a division title last year. Let's tap the brakes on that. 100%. Comments. Again, subscribe, like. Christian Silva asks, which coaching personnel would you say is better suited for a rookie quarterback, Houston or Carolina? It's a good question. I would say I'm a big Josh McCown fan to the point where I was actually intrigued about the possibility of being a head coach. Now, I was talking about him being a head coach for years before that. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback coach. Frank Reich, I don't know if he's a quarterback whisperer, but he does have a lot of experience working with quarterbacks. And you have Jim Caldwell. So Carolina actually has probably, like on paper, a much better, more established group when it comes to grooming a rookie quarterback. However, and I'm not just blindly saying this, I've known the guy for a long time. He's like a son to my co-host, John Lopez. And if you hear anyone talk about Gerard Johnson, it's no surprise how quick he's elevated when it comes to the quarterback coaching carousel. He's got experience with Young. He's got experience with Stroud. He worked in Indianapolis. He went to Minnesota. Kirk Cousins had a good year. Minnesota actually tried to keep him, and then the Texans brought him here. So Gerard is going to be I think he's going to be a head coach one day. I think I think he'll be an offensive coordinator in a couple of years. I think he'll be a head coach pretty soon. And if you ever talk to Gerard, if you ever hear Gerard talk, the Texans got a good ass quarterback coach. I don't know what to expect from Bobby Slowick. I like what I hear. I like where he's from. I like the Shanahan stuff. But you got to give the edge to Carolina because McCown was basically a quarterback coach for all those years. Frank Reich has been there, and Jim Caldwell is a guy who has a good history with quarterbacks. So I would give them the edge, but the arrow is definitely high for the Texans. But I would be being a complete homer if I just sat here and gave the edge to the Texans, although there's nothing to it's really just about opportunity. And that's something that, Gerard and Bobby Slowick haven't had the chance to prove themselves. Carolina has guys who've kind of done this a little bit more. Steven asks, why would Lamar go to the Patriots if they already got Mac Jones as their starting QB? I think you kind of answered your own question. I think Lamar would go to the Patriots because they have Mac Jones as their starting QB. You kind of answered that one yourself, sir, ma'am, whichever. Gridiron takeover. Landry, I want Lamar Jackson to get more money than Deshaun Watson. Not going to happen. That contract was outlandish. I don't blame Lamar for looking at that as some sort of starting point, but from a team perspective, just because the Browns did something stupid doesn't mean I'm going to do something stupid. 86 L Murphy. So Bryce Young is bust proof, apparently. It's Bryce or bust at this point. No other options, I guess. I don't know what that means. I'm confused. So Bryce Young is bust proof, apparently. No quarterback's bust proof, especially if you look at the history of quarterbacks in the top 5. So no quarterback is bust proof. Bryce or bust at this point. No other options, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm Bryce or bust. I'm sold on Bryce Young, but um, for sure, he's definitely not bust proof though. Nobody is. JJ asks, little late, but are you worried about Lamar to the possibility of the Colts? Shane made Hurts look great. Yeah, I think that Shane Steichen is the perfect coach for Lamar Jackson, no doubt. Chris asks, or he's bringing up the Judy for 33. I wouldn't do it. I like Judy. I'm not really into paying Judy. Like I like Judy, but if you trade for Judy, you're gonna have to decide, do you want to pay him? Like, do you want to pay Judy what Christian Kirk got? Like, do you want to pay Judy like in the Brandon Cooks range? Maybe you do. I would rather draft a receiver at 12, maybe find some guys in the second round and figure it out than I would trade a second round pick for Judy and then have to pay him. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like a lower level Lamar Jackson, way lower level. You're not giving up 2 1s and then giving the 200 mil or whatever, but you are trading 33 and then you're going to have to pay him. So there's like two steps to it. So we'll have to see what goes on there. Rodney talking about the 6 wins. I'm with you. I would take the 6 wins. Um, I would take the over. Cebu asking about this. I got a question about this. Um, can we talk about the fan council? Has any other team done this? Will you be on it? Uh, the Texans are having a fan council where I think it's basically going to be a roundtable of conversations about. I'll just read the press release here. I'll read it for you guys because I did hear about it when I walked into the building today. Um, the Texans are launching a fan council to collaborate with the team on decisions that will help influence aspects of the organization and the fan experience. The volunteer council would be comprised of 50 diverse and dynamic fans who will participate in regular in-depth focus groups and other exclusive opportunities throughout the 2023 season. Um, this is from Doug. Shout out to Doug and all he does. We are excited to launch the Houston Texans Fan Council to build an even deeper connection to our fan base and bring them closer than ever before. As a voice for all Texans fans, the council will have the unique opportunity to collaborate with us on a variety of topics that will directly impact their experience. The feedback we receive will be the heart of our decision making moving forward. The goal of the Fan Council is for fans who work directly with Texans leaders to share meaningful feedback, etc. This is a Doug special, and Doug is a very innovative guy. Doug's a very creative guy. Doug's got a good background. Doug was the one who was, talking a little bit about the uniforms and all that type of stuff. I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's needed. They are listening to fans more. As far as if I'll be on it or not, I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. I know a couple people who are, and I feel like as far as having the pulse of the fans and um, being out and about with the fans, whether it's before with the tailgate, whether it's on this stream, whether it's on the show, whether it's telling, you know, giving people an idea of what's going on. I don't know too many people better as far as being on it, but there might be a chance, um, but we'll see. We'll see if I'll be on the fan council. Those things are always interesting too, because some people come in there hot as hell. You ever been in one of those things? It's actually funny, like when you're doing like like whether it's like a radio case study or something like that. Some of those people come in there hot. You know, the guy like in the meeting that's like raising his hand and just talking, and you're just like, man, what is this guy saying? What kind of idea is that? And then he looks over, you're like, yeah, I see. Oh, good suggestion. Yeah, it's a good story. there's a lot of that when this comes, but they're listening. And I mean, I don't know who can speak to it. I don't want to say as well as me, but I do think I'm out in the streets a little bit more um, than some people that they might talk to. And I'm not really, there's no like delusion. I understand how the fans are. We've been riding with you for a while, but I do think it's a good idea. I think Doug's on top of his game. The business, you can just kind of feel it. Like even like the gear and stuff like that has improved. The game day experience is a lot cooler. It's kind of hard um, when you don't have fans and asses in seats to really fully appreciate the presentation, but you still have to keep the straight face and go about it. Like I always feel for people who are on stage, like they have the DJ and you have 10,000 people in seats. They look bored as hell. They're pissed off because the team sucks and the DJ still having to go up there and do their thing. So I think a lot of their efforts have been perfect. You need that atmosphere. You can't duplicate that atmosphere, but you can notice like what they're doing, the efforts that they're putting in, and the stuff that they're that the way they're handling stuff. Even like the D'Amico stuff, like the coach shirts. You think that 10 years ago they would have had those cool coach shirts that everybody's rocking? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, do you think they would have, the caps? Not this one. This is just an NFL one, but like the cool hats, like the exclusive stuff that they're selling at the store? I don't really think so. I mean, they're listening. They're trying to be more Houston. They're trying to feel more like Houston. And listening to the fans and the fan council, I think will just help. You can sign up for the fan council. Um, Go to HoustonTexans.com. Just type in your search bar Texans fan council, and you can sign up. Um, I would like to see people in the sixes, like the 600s, those diehards, uh, all the way down to like the longtime season ticket holders. Because sometimes there is like a sense of entitlement with fans that have been there, and they just really don't. They don't. Some of them don't want like other people coming through. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like territorial. Well, these fans weren't here 2 years ago. What are they doing? They ain't diehards. Like it's not what they're trying to do. So I think they need to cover like the people in the from 600s down, and I don't think they need to talk to like the people they've been talking to lately because some of them are just going to be there. But there's people and these are the people I'm most happy for. The people who um jumped on the season tickets. I'm kind of rambling now. But that's kind of the story of my life. But but the people who took advantage of getting season tickets when a lot of people bailed, those are the people I'm most happy for, and those are the people that I would talk to. Um, but if you've noticed, like they got rid of that corny um finish the name introductions. They got rid of that. We're hearing less Clay Walker football time in Houston. That sucked. Uh, what else have they done? They got the cheap beers in the concourse, the Bud Light area. So they have that. I think tailgating is going to be popping back. So yeah, fan council is a good thing. It'll be really cool. Um, and I think they're going to enjoy it for sure. Uh, and I think they're going to learn a lot. They're going to learn a lot from talking to all these people, and they want to learn. That's the most important thing. Is that they want to learn. That's good. Someone just said, Birdie asked, "Are you going to Yo Landry? Are you accepting that Bryce is a Panther?" I looked and I thought there was like some breaking news or something like that. I don't know. I don't know about that. JJ talking about those people, man. Diehards have to move away sometimes and make a game when they come to town. Diehards are the best. Diehards are the foundation, but like the new people are the foundation too. Like the Texans have rubbed some people the wrong way. I always get a kick out of and I can understand both perspectives, but like, is there anything more weird than the Astros fan who's like, screw these bandwagons. I was here when there were 100 people in the stands and nobody knew who the hell Jose Altuve was. Okay, like good for you. Like this is a transplant city. People are excited when they win. Like it's a winning town. So congratulations. Like, do you want some sort of ribbon? Like you have some media types who are like, yeah, I've been covering this ball club for long. Who cares? Like, do you think we're gonna say that about the Texans? I'm not going to brag about having to go through King Bill and Jack Easterby for the core of my arrival of covering this team. Who cares? Like, if people went away from covering this squad or following this team, or I didn't see you at NRG for 3 years, and then all of a sudden I see you, happy to see you, man. And if I see you every day, and I've been seeing you every day when King Bill and the POS Jack Easterby were tearing stuff down, happy to see you, man. This is like a diverse transplant city. You got the dude that's been painting his face. Shout out to Ultimate Fan. You got Debbie the Texan that's showing up to every damn game. You got the Nuff Said Tailgaters. Shout out to all them. Marty, Freddie, Spin, all those dudes. Congratulations. And you got the new dude that is coming through that took a step away. Congratulations. The more the merrier. That's what you want. That's what they want. They want you to have those memories, but they want to produce new memories because the reality of the Texans is, and I don't think they love when I say this, but it's the reality of what the Texans are. The Texans are mediocre. They've been mediocre since they got here. They've never been to a conference championship. They haven't reached their ultimate goals. You thought that maybe they were heading in that direction. They screwed it up by trusting Bill O'Brien too much. The Deshaun Watson thing went bad. He wanted out, and here we are. So why do you want to hang on to that? You want a new identity. You want a new thing. It's what you want. So that's where they're going. And that's a great thing. Bring it. It's what it is. Not great, but it's getting better. It's getting more fun. They're listening. And we have a situation where hopefully the best days are ahead. Hopefully, and you'll have all those memories, you'll have all the stuff that you've enjoyed, and there will be a nice little new wrinkle. Someone says Jack Easterby is going to be on the Jack Easterby is going to be on the committee. I very seriously doubt that. To be honest, how long did it take the Oilers to get to an AFC Championship game after the merger? Thanks for being honest. You didn't have to preface to be honest. I don't like who cares what the Oilers did? Like that's a long time away, a long time ago. But like you have teams that like didn't take Carolina long, didn't take Jacksonville long. I think it took what 3 years. So yeah, I don't. The Oilers was a little bit different, and they had some stuff to go. But the comparing the Oilers, like what are you, John McClain? By the way, he's going to join us at 11. You want to give me a Dan Pastorini story with that? Cares what the Oilers did? Mean anything? And that was, I mean, is that? Would you say the Oilers the Oilers were a beloved squad, but was that like a rich city? And I think that's the other thing that the other uphill battle. And I've talked about this with people, in the building and like people when they talk about the relationship that fans. So 19 years, Sean Kane says 19 years. So there you go. You and McClain can go trade stories. Shout out to you though, Toy Hippie. But what am I talking about with this? Like the Oilers stories are throwing me out. I don't even remember what I was saying there. You guys are making me lose my mind. On this. Yes, John and his Oilers stories. They're hilarious. Oh, for the Oilers. Okay, the Oilers. That's what I was going. Okay, so here's the thing, like about the Texans' relationship with the fans, and this is kind of my theory. Like on, when people talk about sports radio and stuff, and they talk about, the state of sports, the advantage that the Cleveland Browns have over Houston is when the Browns left, like the Oilers did, they came back the Browns. So you had the same uniform, the same history. It continued, and despite the fact there was like a brief absence, and I was in Cleveland for 6 months, back years ago. It was actually a pretty good time out there, and it was a very good case study, and it was very educational. But the Browns, they came back the Browns. So if your grandpa goes with you to the game, your grandpa's telling you stories about Jim Brown. And you can relate because you can look up and see Jim Brown when he was doing what he was doing and throwing girls off balconies and rushing for a lot of yards. Like Jim Brown was a Brown. Bernie Kosar was a Brown. Eric Metcalf was a Brown. Ernest Biner, all these guys were Browns. So you have that bond and you have those emotions. So when a 70-year-old, a 50-year-old, a 30-year-old are watching the Browns with Baker Mayfield or Deshaun Watson or whatever, they've developed like that visual and that sweat equity and that passion with the Browns. Texans came, and you were excited that football came back to Houston, but you were also like, okay, what is this? You kind of feel weird because you're walking on the same grounds where the Oilers used to play, but there's nothing to do with the Oilers. As soon as the Texans do something silly, you automatically have natural resentment because they're not the Oilers. Your grandpa's sitting by you at the game, and he's telling you about Earl Campbell, and he's telling you about Warren Moon and stuff, and you can't really relate to it because it's different uniforms in a different organization, and the Texans just don't have the sweat equity that those teams have. So you're kind of fighting an uphill battle, and that's the advantage that Cleveland has, and that's kind of what the Texans have. They don't, and I think there was a time where maybe the Texans were trying to force tradition. I think, 5 years in, they were trying to force tradition. They're trying to force like these traditions. It's like it's too new to really force tradition. Hell, they've gone 2 decades without changing their uniforms. The Texans, in the time that they've been in the league, every other team in the league has changed their uniforms in some way, shape, or form, and the Texans haven't. They've had these color rush, but they haven't changed their uniforms. Like everyone else has changed their uniforms. They're finally going to do it like a year from today. They're going to do that, but they haven't changed them. So you don't have that sweat equity. And that's kind of like an uphill battle that I think that the Texans have. David says that his dad does that bleep all the time, is Warren Moon and Campbell stuff. And a lot of kids can't relate to it. That's why right now you're building that. It takes a long time for that to happen. Right now you're building that. And that's just kind of where the Texans are at. I think they're on the right track. They're doing a really, really good job figuring out, but there's some sins of the past and there's some stuff to try to they're gonna try to figure out. Who knows? Who knows? Hopefully the Oilers though don't rock the love you blue when they face the the Texans next year. Do think it's a possibility. They like to troll it a little bit, and Amy Adams loves that. We'll talk to John McClain tomorrow. He's at the owners' meetings on Mattress Max Dime. John McClain just traveling all over the place. We thought he retired. He hadn't retired. He works more now post-retirement. Love the man. But, man, it's not how I would be spending my 70s out there, like having lunches with Adam Schefter and Peter King, especially when you own 3 cribs like John McClain does. Just can't keep him away, though. We're fortunate to have him. We're fortunate to talk to him. We'll talk to him at 11. I have gained access to the D'Amico Ryans audio from today. He spoke for, I'll say, 26 minutes. I got it. I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to take the best stuff for the show tomorrow. Probably put some stuff together for this. Tomorrow morning, little AFC South roundup, current state of the AFC South. We'll get to that. We'll also get to what D'Amico has. Also going to dive into the Texans wide receiver position. How concerning is that? If the Texans don't draft a wide receiver, how bad could it get for them there? And how much of a disservice would that be to their quarterback, regardless of who it is? We'll get into all that. Appreciate everyone for rolling through. Again, subscribe, like. We are 1 month away from the draft. That's when the real fun happens. I'll be out there at the draft party, and then we're going to have a live stream. It might be the longest live stream in the history of this thing, but it's going to be the effing most important. Could be a historic day for this franchise. So subscribe, like, spread. We're 6 months into this thing, 500,000 views, and you guys have been awesome. It's fun to interact. It's fun to not be miserable covering this squad. So appreciate everyone for coming through. No matter what happens, listen to the show tomorrow. Fire up the Odyssey app. And when it comes to this Texans game, we are all in this, no matter what happens, together. Appreciate you.